Hello everyone! I hope 2023 has been off to a great start for you so far. Thank you all so much for visiting my channel and supporting my music. In celebration of reaching 2,000 subscribers, today I'll be answering your questions from recent community posts and comment sections. I've organized these questions into categories to make sure I don't leave anything out or end up repeating myself a bunch. Enjoy watching me clean up my deserted Animal Crossing island as I answer your questions. Let's go ahead and get started with the category I've been looking forward to the most. It's finally time for me to talk about my cats. First off, special thank you to everyone who asked about my cats. Thanks for putting up with my nonsense and letting me talk about them. I love hearing all about your cats too, as well as seeing their pictures in the pets channel on my Discord server. This is a quick reminder that I have a Discord server now, so come hang out and look at all the cat pictures. Now, I'd like to introduce you to my oldest cat, Bridget. Bridget has chosen me to be her human, and I treat her like my child. She is very spoiled when it comes to food because she's trained me to give her fresh dry crunchies every time I go to the kitchen. This isn't a full-blown meal, just a light snack. So really, I'm just giving her the freshest of fresh dry crunchies, per her demands of course. Bridget has 2 speeds, fast and sleep. In other words, she is our wild child and loves to play with her toys. She loves to bring me either her crinkle ball or a ponytail holder, carrying it to me in her mouth, and then runs to the other side of the room so I can throw it over her head and she can jump to catch it. When I say jump, I mean this cat can jump. Sometimes I swear she can even fly. She also likes to use a technique known to many cat owners as the belly trap, which I fall for quite a bit, and this often results in my finger getting bit by her teefies. If you ever see me wearing a band-aid on my fingers in a video, it was probably from playing with a cat, and I regret nothing. When she's not playing or running laps around the house, she's actually very sweet and loves to lay either in my lap or on my bed next to me. She does drool though, which sometimes she likes to wipe off on my hand. Thanks, Bridget. Before we move on to my next cat, let me introduce you to someone special. This is Buddy. Buddy is Bridget's favorite toy. She likes to carry Buddy around the house by his tail. Usually, Bridget squeaks when she talks, meep, 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 meep. But when she holds Buddy in her mouth, and only when she holds Buddy in her mouth, she has a real meow and meows a lot. Seriously, this cat has a lot to say. She'll often cry outside my door in the middle of the night when she wants to play, and I'll open the door to see Buddy waiting for me. Immediately followed by Bridget running inside my room, of course. Sometimes Buddy gets hungry too. Or, at least that's what Bridget thinks, because we'll find Buddy left by the food bowl. One time he was even standing up right in front of the food bowl. So that's Buddy and Bridget. Next up, let's talk about Mel. His government name is Caramel, but we call him Mel. Or Melvin, Melbert, Smellimelly, Maleficent. Honestly, he goes by a ton of names, but this chunky monkey is our chunky monkey. Specifically, he has chosen Mom to be his human, but he acts like such a big baby that I'm just gonna say he's Mom's child. He always thinks he's hungry and runs to the kitchen every time he hears the slightest noise. Open a can, must be food time. Get a spoon out of the drawer, it's Mel, and he thinks it's food time. Open a new box of cat food just to put the cans on the shelf, food time! In other news, Mel likes hugs. Sometimes when he wants a hug from Mom, he'll get in her face until she puts down her iPad or Switch and pets him. Then he'll fall asleep and snore. Seriously, he snores a lot, and loudly. One of Mel's weird quirks is that he loves to bury himself under blankets. Sometimes when we get home, we'll look for a good 5 to 10 minutes trying to find him, and then we see a big lump underneath one of the blankets. Pull up the blankie and what do you see? Sure enough, there's Mel, completely buried under the blanket taking a bath. I don't know why he does this, that's just what Mels do, I guess. Last but certainly not least, we've got JC. JC is short for Just Cat. Shout out to anyone who gets that reference, by the way. But sometimes we think that might actually stand for Judgment Cat instead. As many cat owners are aware, tabbies tend to be judgmental, and, well, JC sure does live up to that expectation. Sometimes JC and Bridget get into staring contests, but instead, we've deemed them to be judging contests because, yikes, that is some serious judge right there. We didn't adopt JC, JC adopted us. For a couple months, she was a stray cat living under our house, but she kept trying to get into the house and often took naps on our front porch. She even tried jumping into my car one day while I was unloading groceries. Finally, one day my parents decided we're gonna take her in, and now she has a happy home with plenty of wet food and dry crunchies. She's chosen Dad to be her human, and she likes to help him at the table when he's working on his laptop. She's very helpful. Okay, so she might not actually be very helpful, but she is a perfect assistant, okay? Get it? Perfect. I'll be here all day, thank you. When JC gets the zoomies, she goes nyoo. She goes so fast that she can't even keep up with herself, and she barely slides around the corner without bumping into anything. She likes to play with string too, although she's not the best at it and will often get her claw stuck in my finger instead. Like I said, if you see a band-aid on my finger in a video, I regret nothing. JC likes to tag team with Mel on letting us know when it's food time, or at least when they think it's food time. They sure do think it's food time a lot more than we do though. Whenever JC wants something, she'll jump up next to you on the couch or bed and lightly tap you with one paw. She doesn't yell in your face like Mel does. Instead, she just goes tap tap, tap tap, like she's trying to say, hello, excuse me. Yes, hi please, I would like your attention now. Hello. She's such a sweet kid, and we're very thankful that she adopted us. Well, that's about it for what I have to say about my cats. For the next 5 to 10 seconds at least. If you have any more questions about my cats, or want to see more pictures of them, remember to join the Discord server and check out the Pets channel. Next up, we're moving on to music. What was the first instrument I learned, and what is my favorite to play? Well, I grew up with a family of musicians, so I've always been surrounded by instruments, and I messed around on the piano a bit when I was younger, but I never took lessons or seriously studied anything until I started percussion in 4th grade. That means I've been a percussionist for, hang on, let me do some math real quick. Somewhere between 17 to 18 years? Wow, I don't think I realized how long it's been until just now. When I graduated from college, I kept wondering when I'd finally feel like a real adult, or even a real professional for that matter, and well, almost 4 years later, I think I'm finally there. As for my favorite instrument to play, I personally really enjoy playing mallet parts, but I also have a soft spot in my heart for djembe. I was fortunate to have been part of a djembe ensemble while I studied at Winthrop University, and I have many fond memories of our performances from while I was there. There's something truly special about just getting into the groove with everyone around you and experiencing the music as a community. We had a tradition where you could step up in front of the ensemble and take a solo, and while you were soloing, our professor would take out a $1 bill and stick it to your head. If it stayed on your head after you finished your solo, then you got to keep it. Wow, even just mentioning this story brings a smile to my face, and I'll always hold these memories dearly in my heart. Moving on to the next music question, what is an instrument I've always wanted to own? I'd love to have a full set of timpani, on wheels of course, or a 5-octave marimba I guess, but that's a lot of money, and honestly, I don't have anywhere for those things to go. Even if I did buy them, there's no room in the music studio for them. What is a style of music I've always wanted to try making? I've always wanted to try making something in the singer-songwriter style, but unfortunately, I just don't have the air support for it. Here's a fun fact for you. Amid-Normativity, the first original song I ever uploaded to my channel, actually started out with lyrics. They even came first. I used the rhythm and melody of those lyrics to create what ended up being the final percussion version of the song as you know it today. I don't have any regrets about taking out those lyrics, or singing in general for that matter, because I'm pretty happy being a percussionist and I wouldn't trade it for anything or have it any other way. Fortunately, I've gotten to know many wonderful vocalists through the VGM community over the past couple years, so if I ever decide to revisit the singer-songwriter style in the future, then I know of some lovely friends that I can ask for help. Before we get into the next topic, I want to first take a minute and say thank you for all of the positive comments and support. I always have a hard time figuring out how to properly express this through the comments section, but I truly am grateful for every single like and every single positive comment. When I first shared Spider Dance, the first cover I arranged and recorded all the parts for, after graduating college, my college percussion professor took the time to share it on Facebook and commented, "Bravo!" with an exclamation point, and it meant the world to me to have his support from the start. When I started college, I told him I wanted to write and arrange for percussion ensembles someday, and now, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm incredibly grateful for everything he taught me, and I really hope that comes through in all of my music and my videos. Okay, I know that wasn't anybody's question or anything like that, but I really wanted to take a moment and mention that because I wouldn't be where I am today without that support from my professor, my parents, my family, my friends in real life, and especially all of you who are watching this video and support me from week to week. Alright, enough of that. Let's move on to the next topic. Now let's talk about the process that goes into making my videos. First up, arranging. How do I decide what songs to arrange? Sometimes I'm arranging for something specific, like KK birthday for my friend's birthday, or a Pokémon song for Pokémon Day, spoilers. And other times, I'll arrange something that I think will do well in the algorithm, like Gourmet Race when Kirby's Dream Buffet first came out, or My Castle Town when Deltarune Chapter 2 first came out. Seeing how well My Castle Town did is what inspired me to arrange Dial Tone, and, well, I think that one turned out okay. It's not like it's my most viewed video by tens of thousands of views or anything. Thank you, Spanton. Most of the time, though, I'm pretty much just a free spirit. I just kind of get inspired one day and run with it. I listen to a lot of video game music while working on sheet music, editing videos, and cleaning, and I'll often hear something that inspires a future cover while that's happening. Yes, I do have a list of songs that I think would make a good cover. It's a long list, a really long list. I used to keep this list on a dry erase board in my room, and I would write as small as I could so I could fit as many ideas as possible on that board. I mean, we're talking somewhere from 50 to 75, and no, that is not an exaggeration. But I actually just erased this whole thing a couple weeks ago. It kinda got a little overwhelming, and somewhere along the way, it went from, this could be a good idea, to, this is something I have to get done, so I erased it to help me get back on track. I got kinda burnt out at the end of last year, so erasing that list and giving myself a fresh start is just one of the things I've done to help counter that this year. I honestly don't need a written list though. The ones that I'm the most passionate about are sitting in my head rent-free and won't be leaving anytime soon. On a separate but related note, I do still have the list of requested and suggested covers from comments and emails, and I look at it from time to time, but I'm kind of putting those on hold right now until I finish my original album. In case anyone is curious, the currently most requested song is A Cyber's World from Deltarune Chapter 2, but that and Big Shot were probably the most covered songs from that soundtrack, and I don't really have any ideas on how to give it my own spin right now, especially in a way that's different from my arrangement of Welcome to the City, which shares the leitmotif. So I've set that aside, and maybe I'll come back to it with some fresh inspiration or ideas in the future. Next up, how long does it take me to arrange a song? That depends on the size of the arrangement. I can knock out something smaller, like the Heart Gold Soul Silver version of Cinnabar Island, for example, in an afternoon, but something bigger, especially a collab, like Spring It's a Big World Outside from Stardew Valley, can take me anywhere from a couple weeks to even a month to arrange. How do I choose what instrumentation I arrange for? Sometimes I have something very specific in mind, such as Fallen Down from Undertale, which I wanted to be for a smaller ensemble, and I knew I wanted that magic glockenspiel toy piano combo at the end. But other times, I'll just start transcribing something and I'll see where the arrangement takes me. A good example of this is my arrangement of Song of Healing from Majora's Mask. When I started that arrangement, I knew I wanted piano, vibraphone, and marimba rolls at the beginning, and then I knew I wanted glockenspiel toy piano on Melody and Harmony, but everything else just kind of fell into place as I went along, especially the drum set and triangle parts, which came last. To contrast that with a different example though, the drum parts for KK Jangara from Animal Crossing New Leaf came first. I knew I wanted to use rubber mallets on the top two marimba parts, but doubling those top two parts with yarn mallets was actually a last minute addition. Although, now that I can look at it in hindsight, I can't only imagine having 3 marimba parts on that piece. Adding those 2 extra yarn mallet parts made room for better harmonizations and chord structures at the B section where the glockenspiel and vibraphone had the melody, plus it just made for an epic large ensemble ending. That arrangement also started with only 2 drum parts, which each had 2 solos, but splitting it up into 4 drum parts that each got 1 solo was definitely the right call. So, short story long, sometimes I'm particular about the instrumentation, but most of the time, the instrumentation chooses me. Like I said earlier, I guess I'm just kind of a free spirit when it comes to arranging. Now for recording, I'm very particular about the order that I do things. If there are drum parts and busy auxiliary parts, such as tambourine and shaker that are a vital part of the groove, then those always come first. I always record drum set first, so I can line up with the groove when I'm recording the mallet parts. When it comes to mallet parts, I usually record bottom up. What I mean by that is I'll record the lowest marimba part with the bass line first, followed by the other marimba parts, then vibraphone, xylophone, and glockenspiel toy piano come last. Sometimes I'll record xylophone before vibraphone though, if it lines up with the marimba parts, so then you could say I record woods first and metals next. If I'm recording something that does not have drums and treats auxiliary as accompaniment rather than setting the groove, such as suspended cymbal, wind chimes, and triangle, then I'll record mallets first and auxiliary last. So where does piano fit in this? Well, usually piano comes last, or I'll record it after mallets but before the auxiliary instruments. Honestly, it just kind of depends on what's going on that day. Piano is the only thing I can record while it's raining or the laundry is going, so sometimes I'll just record piano while I'm waiting to record something else. On a more professional, I have my life together reason though, I'll save piano for last so I can match the vibraphone and glockenspiel on how long to let the last note ring for. Moving on to the next question. Is it frustrating that I have to record separately first before combining all the parts to the final product? Well, no, that doesn't bother me in the slightest. Usually, I even prefer it. That way if something doesn't sound like I want it to, then I only have myself to blame. Sure, it sometimes gets tiring having to record a bunch of parts for bigger arrangements, but having a balance of large ensemble and small ensemble arrangements definitely helps keep me from getting exhausted and overwhelmed in that aspect. I will say though, that I've really enjoyed collaborating with other VGM artists on YouTube, both in playing for other artists' arrangements and having other artists play for my arrangements. In school group projects, who you get to work with depends on who's in the class, and then there's the issue of sharing a grade, people who work ahead versus procrastinate, which leads to mistakes that cost your grade points even though you started first, and honestly, I cannot think of a single positive group experience I had in college. On the other hand, when it comes to collabs on YouTube, I am incredibly super duper grateful to have so many wonderful VGM collaborators that I get along with and trust. All of the collaborators I've worked with on this channel so far have similar standards of wanting to produce high quality sound recordings, and I have never had a problem with anyone meeting a deadline for my arrangements. It's so nice being able to work with other professionals, and again, I truly cannot thank all of my collaborators enough for the positive experiences I've had with VGM on YouTube so far. Moving on to editing the videos once the arranging and recording is done, what video editing software do I use, and how challenging is it to edit all the videos together? Personally, I use Adobe Premiere Pro to edit all my videos, and I've been very happy with it so far. As a disclaimer, I understand that the subscription model is not for everyone, but I've been using Adobe products since middle school, and I just like how they work. If you're just starting out with video editing, then I do have a few other recommendations for software. There are cheaper one-time purchases for Photoshop and Premiere called Elements, so that's Photoshop Elements and Premiere Elements, and although they can't do everything that the full versions can, they're great for starting out. I used the Elements versions when I started my channel. You can even go back and check older video descriptions to see exactly which videos were edited with which versions, and I think they're great options. If you're a Mac user, then I'd also recommend Final Cut Pro, which is basically iMovie but more, and that's also a one-time purchase. I know several people who use Final Cut Pro and have been very happy with it, including my dad, who uses it to edit his videos for both disc golf and music stuff. Another great option is DaVinci Resolve, which has a free version. Although I personally have no experience with DaVinci Resolve, I've heard great things about it and would certainly recommend looking into it if you're getting started on a low budget. Briefly sidetracking to other software, I use Logic Pro as my DAW, that's Digital Audio Workstation, which I use to record and mix my audio with, and I've been very happy with it so far. It's a one-time purchase that I upgraded to last spring, and it was absolutely worth the money. That being said, I did use GarageBand, which is free for every cover before Stale Cupcakes last year, and it's a fantastic option for those looking to get started. For PC options for a DAW, I've heard good things about Reaper. I haven't had a PC since 2013 though, so I'm not super familiar with programs that are not available on Mac. But I can always phone a friend if you ever need a suggestion on something like that. Also on the topic of software, I use Adobe Photoshop to edit my thumbnails. I also made my video guides from scratch in Photoshop and did math to make sure all the lines were evenly spaced. It took a long time, but I'm glad I did it because I have a big template now that's easy to edit if I ever need a new guide for something. I've heard GIMP is also a good option for photo editing, but I don't have any personal experience with it. Before Photoshop, and even Photoshop Elements, I did use good old Pixlr back in middle school when I was coloring in pictures for the Warrior Cats wiki for fun. Listen, I just really like the books, okay? Plus, I learned and taught myself a lot about image editing in the process that I even use for album covers today, so don't at me, okay? So that's also an option. Okay, so back to video editing. How challenging is it to edit all the videos together so the finished product is in sync? I've gotten a lot faster at editing videos than I used to be, and upgrading from Premiere Elements to Premiere Pro certainly helped out with that. I've also upgraded from a MacBook Air to a MacBook Pro that I special ordered to have more memory, which improved the playback that makes it easier for me to see if videos are lining up or not. My old MacBook Air could only handle about 7 or 8 videos before the playback looked more like glitchy pictures, which would then require me to export the video and do a render test. But now I can usually get anywhere from 12 to 16 videos on screen on the MacBook Pro before I need to do any tests. What's especially helpful about percussion in particular is that I can move frame by frame to see if the mouths are physically on the bar at the same time or not, so I usually don't even need to do a render test for those parts. Now, when I'm editing collabs, especially with woodwind or brass parts, then I really have to take my time to see if they're breathing together and if the fingers on the keys and valves look like they match or not. When it comes to trombone slides being in time, honestly, I have a hard time telling, so I usually just bother Dad and make him watch it. Thankfully, he doesn't mind too much. When it comes to how long it takes to edit a video, I can usually get a smaller ensemble video edited in a few hours, and a larger ensemble video done in one whole workday. I never find this to be annoying though. Thankfully, I actually really enjoy the video editing process. Alright, I've talked a lot about making videos, now let's move on to some gaming stuff. Who is my favorite Animal Crossing villager? When I played New Leaf on the 3DS as my first Animal Crossing game, Ruby was one of my starting villagers, and she quickly became my favorite. I almost cried when she moved away from my town, and I bought a bunch of amiibo cards when they came out just so I could invite her back. I of course used that same amiibo card years later to invite her to my New Horizons island. When it comes to villagers I first met in New Horizons, I gotta say, I love Punchy. In my house, we've even started saying, "Punchy my boy!" every time Punchy appears on screen. When it comes to my upcoming Animal Crossing inspired original album that I announced on Monday, I tried really hard not to pick all favorites, and I did include at least one of every villager personality, but you better bet Ruby and Punchy were the first 2 villagers that I wrote themes for. No, that's not a spoiler, that's an expectation. And, in fact, you'll get to hear Ruby's theme on Monday. Moving on to the next question. Who is my favorite spouse in Stardew Valley? Well, I haven't married anyone yet because that's not really my thing, so I'm gonna go by character instead of spouse if that's alright. I thought Shane's story was good as I embarked on the quest to unlock blue chickens. Wow, I really do want that star drop for the extra energy and health though. Maybe I should get married in the game, I don't know. If I had to pick somebody, it'd probably be Abigail, because she has a drum set in her room, according to the Stardew Wiki, and I'd love to have that in my house. Honestly, if there's one thing I want to see in Haunted Chocolatier that's not in Stardew Valley, it would be more platonic options for max friendship without requiring romance. I know that's not something a lot of people are interested in though, so I'm not really expecting it. It would just be nice to have, and it's certainly on my wish list. Okay, next question. Are there any games I have not done covers for yet that I'd like to do in 2023? Wow, do I have a bunch of ideas. Too many ideas, truly. I would love to cover more Pokémon music, especially from spin-offs, such as Pokémon Mystery Dungeon, and Pokemon Mystery Dungeon 2, and Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Gates to Infinity, and Pokemon Super Mystery Dungeon, which I always say Super Pokemon instead because I get it mixed up a lot. Anyway, I had too many spooky ideas last fall, and unfortunately, Abyssal Badlands was the song I ended up cutting, but I'd love to revisit that theme later this year. Also from Super Mystery Dungeon, Fire Island Volcano lives in my head rent-free, and Don't Ever Forget, also known as I Don't Want to Say Goodbye, from Mystery Dungeon 2, Explorers of Time, Darkness, and Sky, always calls to me in my heart, and I will most definitely cover it someday, if not this year. I'd also love to cover the music box version of the partner theme from Super Mystery Dungeon. Really, I'm just going to keep talking about Mystery Dungeon because that's what I want to cover the most. Aside from Pokemon though, I'm always down for more Stardew Valley covers. I don't know if I'll get to all of them this year, but I'd love to cover all of the other spring themes, summer themes, and fall themes from that game. Next question, what is my favorite song that I recorded in 2022? Probably something from Stardew Valley, such as Winter Ancient or Dance with the Moonlight Jellies. I do have a soft spot for all the Kirby covers though, especially the bigger arrangements like Gourmet Race and Dracia Sorceress. I'm also really proud of the Verdanturf arrangement that I did for the Game Groove's Pokemon Jazz album. I usually stick pretty close to the original song for arranging, but I really enjoyed turning Verdanturf into a slower laid-back bossa nova. That key change at the end, Arceus Bless, that's one of the best things I've ever done. Also Pokemon, I really wanted to arrange an Unwavering Heart for a long time, and I was really happy to finally bring that idea to life last year. Next question, what was the first Nintendo game I played that made me fall in love with this music? The first games that I remember playing were the Pokemon spin-offs on the 64. I don't remember if Pokemon Snap or the mini-games on Pokemon Stadium came first, but the nostalgia for both of these holds a special place in my heart. For music specifically, I remember playing Free Run on Kirby Air Ride for hours at a time, just so I could listen to the Frozen Hillside theme on repeat. Also Kirby, the entire Kirby's Epic Yarn soundtrack is one of my favorites. If you've never heard the theme for Dusk Dunes, then pause this video and go listen to it, then come back and tell me why it's one of your new favorites in the comment section below. What are my favorite Pokemon? Okay, I know this is going to sound kind of basic, but Pikachu really is my favorite. My favorite used to be Squirtle, but when he left the show to work with the Squirtle Squad, it left a hole in my heart, and you know who was still there after he left? Pikachu. I did see recently where the Squirtle Squad is coming back in the anime soon though, and oh my god, I am so hyped to see. I wonder if they'll replace Pikachu with a new Pokemon as the new mascot after the new anime starts. Honestly, I would not be upset if Pawmi became the new mascot. I may not have finished Violet yet because I'm taking my sweet time, but Pawmi and its evolutions are always walking beside me because I love it so much, and I would love to see that as the new mascot. Next question, what is my favorite game that I played last year? Honestly, probably Stardew Valley. I liked Kirby in the Forgotten Land, but as with most Kirby games, I played it for a couple hours and then forgot about it. I've enjoyed the new Pokemon games, as glitchy as they may be, but I wouldn't call them my favorite, especially since I haven't finished them yet. I do know how the story goes, but I would call them good games, but not my favorite. I put the most time into Stardew Valley last year, so that's what I'm gonna go with. Although this question wasn't asked, it's kind of related, so I'll go ahead and mention it. My favorite game of all time is Pokemon Heart Gold Soul Silver. That's the only game I've ever played through to completion twice. My favorite spin-off game is Pokemon Pinball Ruby Sapphire. If you've never played it, go get it on the Wii U Virtual Console before the eShop closes down next month. Special shout out to Mystery Dungeon also being on the eShop. Again, make sure you get those before the eShop closes next month. Last but not least, what game am I most excited for in 2023? Honestly, I don't even know it's coming out in 2023 yet. I hesitate to admit this on the internet, but I'm not really a big Zelda fan. I've never played Breath of the Wild, so I'm not really hyped for Tears of the Kingdom. Tears of the Kingdom, have we decided on that yet? Or anything like that. At the moment, I'm probably most hyped for Pokemon Stadium and Stadium 2 to come to Nintendo Switch Online, so I can play the mini-games with my friends online. If I had a wish list for new games this year though, a Tomodachi Life port for the Nintendo Switch would be at the top. I wasted away so many hours for that on the 3DS, and given how they ported Miitopia, I really think it's the next logical port. Of course, I would love a new Nintendo Land with Kirby and Pokemon editions, but I do not expect that to happen. Some other games on my wish list that I do not expect to happen, but would love to see anyway, are Kirby Air Ride 2, Pokepark 3, Pokemon Pinball 3, a new Pokemon Mystery Dungeon with Gen 7, 8, and 9 Pokemon, a Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Sky Switch port with the same art style as Mystery Dungeon DX, except you can turn off the autosave. Important on turning off the autosave. Mario Party Superstars DLC, including boards from Mario Party 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, 8 being my favorite. Oh, but of course, I know there's no release date yet, But if Haunted Chocolatier comes out this year, then that's automatically jumping to the top of the list. Alright, I think that's about it for gaming stuff. Let's go ahead and move on to the last topic. Last but not least, let's talk about my plans for 2023. Yes, I've got sneak peeks for future projects, some of which you've already heard in the background while watching today's video. As I announced on Monday, I'm working on an original album inspired by Animal Crossing villagers. You've already seen the video for Eric's theme, I'll be posting the video for Ruby's theme next week, and I haven't decided on the order for the rest yet, but Punchy's theme will certainly be coming sooner than later. I will not announce who the rest of the villagers are yet, but if you want to leave any guesses in the comments, then I'll let you know if you're correct. Aside from my original album and the weekly upload schedule, I have 2 more goals for this year. My first goal is to catch up on publishing sheet music for all of my older arrangements. Basically, I plan on publishing sheet music for anything that's on streaming services such as Spotify or Apple Music. And you can check the Google Doc in the video description below for a list of what all of those are. If you have any questions about any of the arrangements, or if there's one you'd really like for me to publish first before I get to the others, then let me know in the comments section on this video or the video of that arrangement, and I'll try to get to it as soon as I can. I already have Histocrat from Super Mario 3D World at the top of the list, and I'll get to it as soon as I can. My second goal for this year is to finish re-recording all of my older arrangements to release on streaming services in the form of remastered albums. This would be something such as Year 1 Remastered, including everything from 2020 and before, and Year 2 Remastered, which would include everything from 2021 except for 12 Days of VGM. I do also have plans for releasing Year 3, which would include remastering the older stuff from 2022 done in GarageBand before I got Logic, but that would come last after the first 2 albums. I'm not going to commit to a release date for any remastered albums yet, and honestly, I probably won't work on any more re-recording until I finish the original album, but that's still always something that I have in the back of my mind. Aside from those 2 goals, I do have some other plans coming up soon too. This includes more collaborations with other YouTubers and more projects with Game Grooves. That's all I can say about any of those projects right now though, so I hope you'll stay tuned for more information coming in the future. There's lots of exciting VGM covers coming in 2023, and I can't wait to share them with you. Alright, I think that just about wraps up all of the questions. Thank you to everyone who commented a question for this Q&A video. If you have any follow-up questions about anything I said today, then feel free to ask in the comments and I'll be happy to answer them. I'd like to thank everyone again for making this video, a celebration of reaching 2,000 subscribers, even possible in the first place. I'm very grateful for all the support, and I hope you continue to enjoy my music for years to come. Thanks for watching today's video, and I'll see you Monday for Ruby's theme. Hope you have a great weekend. Bye!